G'day guys, what's cracking? It's Ralph here, and today I want to talk to you about what you do once you buy a Z5. There's many of you on my channel who love my Z5s. You become subscribers through my Z5 videos, you've got a Z5, you just bought one. And what I thought I'd do today is just show you how I use mine in the hopes that it will help you use yours. So this isn't a definitive guide by any stretch. It also will refer to a bunch of other videos, and I'll put those links in the description below if they don't all fit in the cards or the end screen of this video, rather than going over things I've already gone over. I'm hoping this will be a resourceful overview for you as you think about, all right, how do I make the most out of this amazing camera? So the Z5 is now a number of years old. It was developed as a full frame Nikon camera. It's on the lower end of their range in terms of the full frame capabilities, but it is an amazing camera, really good value for money, and a camera I try and use as frequently as I can. So the first thing I did with my Z5 is I put an L bracket on. My L bracket is the cheapest one I could find, which was from Small Rig. Be links to all this in the description below. An L bracket does a couple of things. It enables you to attach it to a tripod like so. It also offers a layer of protection if you happen to tragically drop your camera. If you do drop your camera, make sure you drop it like that and no other way. Don't drop your camera. Oh man, it's so painful emotionally before everything else when you drop your camera. Then I have these anchor points. These are called anchor points. This is again the Small Rig brand, which is the cheaper brand and one I'd recommend for you if you're just starting out. Anchor points for hanging it, to hang in such a way that your camera faces down when it's on your hip as opposed to out. It's always good to have a strap. Yeah, a strap comes with the camera, but this particular strap, which I always kind of wear like this, extends and goes shorter and longer depending on your need. So you can actually have it really short and tucked in here, or if you've got a smaller frame than me, or if you've got a longer frame where you want to just hang it down punk rock style right down, like halfway down your thigh. I find it's always really good to have a strap. The strap is probably the thing you wear most, especially when you take the camera out. So get a nice comfortable strap. These ones from Small Rig are really good. The Peak Design ones are also really good, but they come with these anchor points, and the beauty of that is, like, just like that, you can disconnect and you can connect your strap. With the ones that come in here, you can't. And so if you want to put this on a tripod, you don't want the strap banging around. You don't want the wind banging into it and pulling it all over the place, or your chance of your knee catching on it or tripping on it and falling off. So I find having a strap like this is just the way to go. And a little bit of a hack, what you can do is connect two of these anchor points together, so you can actually connect this to itself when you're not using it, and it can just stay securely on you. Let's talk about batteries. The Z5 only really likes Nikon batteries. It kind of has a bit of a fit if you put other batteries in it. It says, I'm not going to work. Look, you just don't understand. We're not playing those sort of games. So my recommendation is have a couple of batteries, because when you run out of this one, it's always good to have one in your pocket. You can chuck it in, one in your bag, you can chuck it in, and you're good to go, rather than going, game's over because I only have one battery. They only send one battery with it, so getting two batteries is super handy in my opinion, or three or four. I've actually got, I think, 5 or 6, because a lot of my Z cameras rely on the batteries that go into here. In terms of memory cards, you've got 2 SD slots. I would recommend Extreme Pro SanDisk to start off with. You can go much higher speed and capacity, but honestly, for what you're going to use this for the video demands and the photo demands, your Extreme Pro 128 or 256 will do the job, and they're pretty affordable these days. They're like kind of crazy cheap. Let's talk about lenses. So when I put a lens on this, the lens that kind of lives on this camera is my 24-70. The reason my 24-70 lives on this is it's so versatile. You can go really wide and really narrow. So if you're doing anything that's from landscape all the way through to street, to family, to your kids, to birthday parties, to family events, you go on a holiday, you only want to take one lens, you take a 24-70. The cheaper version of that is the f4. That means it doesn't give you the sort of depth of field and the bokeh and the blurry background that a 2.8 will give you. My preference is always for what's called a faster lens, is f2.8. It costs considerably more, but you are able to do more with it. But if you're just starting off, an f4 24-70 that lives on this camera is great. Now just remember, when you take off this is your sensor. Right? This is the most important part of your camera that you need to care for. You need to keep that covered up and realize that dirt and dust and rain and all sorts of stuff will attract itself to that sensor. So keep it covered up as much as possible. There's a default cleaning version on this that you can put your default to clean every time you turn your camera off, and it sends a electromagnetic wave across your sensor, and everything that shouldn't be there falls off. But things like smudges or blotches or those sort of things, they do accumulate. So you may need to at times clean your sensor. You don't need to be afraid of this. Just do it really carefully. Follow the instructions. There'll be a link in a video down below to make sure you keep this in tip-top condition. Do not apply a lot of force when cleaning your camera sensor. It's very fragile, it's very careful, it doesn't take a lot of scrubbing or cleaning. I ruined a camera once because I didn't understand this. Just look after your sensor. Kidding, like so can't be clear on this. It's so easy to ruin your entire camera by putting a little mark on your sensor, which puts a mark on every single photo. In terms of flash, I've never really used the flash. I use auto ISO. You engage your auto ISO by pressing ISO and using the front button. You click it forward once or back once, and that will engage your auto ISO. To take it off, you simply press ISO again and go back, or you can manually change your ISO. So you click on ISO and you can change it with the back wheel to whatever you like. The ISO on these cameras is really quite good. If you're shooting in a dark party, you'll probably need a flash, and the flash can sit right on here, or you can have a transmitter with a flash over here. I'll put a link down below of what you might want to choose when you're doing that and how you might want to negotiate it. But flash photography is a whole nother level, and honestly, for the stuff you're using, your ISO function should be enough. Auto ISO means it will calculate based on whatever settings you have for your aperture and your shutter speed. It will calculate what amount of ISO rating you need in order to expose the picture correctly based on how much light and dark is in it. Its version of correctness not be your version of correctness, and that's totally fine. You're in control. On top you have the mode dial. I keep mine on manual unless every so often I want to save the mucking about and switch to aperture, or if I'm shooting surf photography or sports photography, and a lot of stuff's changing. But the one thing I don't want to change is the shutter speed. I'll put it on S. When I give it to my kids, I sometimes put the strap on, I put it on P or auto for my kids, and they can get to shoot and do whatever they like. You've also got 3 custom options, U1, U2 and U3. You can use that for whatever you like, but if you find that you like shooting sunrises, you go out fairly frequently to do that, but you're also shooting your kids, so they're running around and mucking about, and you're also kind of want to do some creative photography like some panning or something, set these up in that way. Once you set your custom mode, you can still change out of that, and then you can go to number 2, or you can go to shutter priority, and you can go back to U1 and it will revert back to whatever your custom setting was. So you can diverge from it. When you go back to it, it'll revert back to it. And I would suggest, I use mine for panning. So sometimes I'm doing some street photography and a bike or a car or a tram comes past, and I want to capture that really close and still and the background blurry. It requires a low shutter speed of about 1/5 of a second, a few other implications to almost overexpose the photo. And so instead of mucking about and going, how am I going to do it? Because it always happens quick. You see something coming down the road, I just bang it onto U1 and click, we're good to go. In astro season, I do a lot of astro, and that requires very, very different settings of a longer exposure, a higher ISO. And so to do that, I have it on a custom setting too, and you can set that in your menus. In terms of your menu setup, I've got a lot of instruction around that, which I'm gonna, I've already done some videos on, so rather than redoing that, I'm gonna put a link down below so that you can see what settings you can use and how you can kind of mod this to your preference. But you have a function button here and a function button here, and then you have, oh, that's it, it's only 2 function buttons. So my top function button I use for playback. So I don't have automatic playback on this. I'll take a photo and then I'll hit this if I need to. So it might be bang, 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 kids party, kids are mucking about, this and that, and I want to just check the shot. I just hit this, and that enables me to see the photo immediately that I've taken, rather than the camera thinking every time we take a photo I have to show you what it looks like. Also, I use the OK button to zoom in. I zoom in on the eyes or the focal point to make sure that where I think is in focus and what I've taken is indeed in focus. So you can program the OK button to be like 100 or 200% scale, so you can see really in quickly on the detail. So I can go review, okay, yep, happy, press half the shutter button and we're good to go. I like to back button focus, which is this button here, the AF on, and so that basically means that instead of the half pressing down to focus, I can focus on the back. Because sometimes you half press and you're waiting for something to happen, and then it moves and you're like, oh, but my fingers here, but if you have back button focus, it gives you more control of the camera. It gives you more freedom and flexibility when it comes to holding a focus point and readjusting that focus point. So I just encourage you to explore back button focusing. The particular thing about the Z5 as opposed to the other Z cameras is basically two things. First is it doesn't have a dial on top. That means you can't see what's taking place. You can't see the settings, so you need the screen on the back to tell you. Shutter release disabled, recharge battery, it says. Good one, Ralph. But you need the back screen to be able to show you what's happening and what's on and how all that works. And it gives you the details that you need. It tells you your ISO and your aperture and your shutter and so forth. It tells you what focal points you have, what metering you're using, how many shots left on your SD card. It shows you how much battery life there is and any other configuration of information you want. So I'd suggest that you select that, and you can control that by the display function. So I sometimes have a screen that's just nothing but the picture, so I can just focus on the picture in my display options, but then also one that has the information I absolutely need, like those exposure shuttings. The other difference and challenge this has is only 4.5 frames a second. Now only 4, so it only takes 4.5 photos a second. Just think about that. Like, that's a lot. Kids running, birds flying, koalas munching. Yes. You can get away with 4.5 and you can get some epic, amazing shots. You can also get an FTZ adapter and buy some cheap F-mount lenses. This is Z-mount, so you can buy F-mount lenses, put them on here, and they'll work just as well, and you'll get real bang for your buck as you're taking those shots. You can also just flick it over to video. So I would suggest if you flick it over to video, always have it in the video parameters that you want. So when you go there, you're good to go. So you might have it on 4K at 24 frames a second, and you know that if you flick there, you're going to be good to go unless you want to tweak it, and that space of being good to go enables you to capture the action that's happening before you, because let's face it, you're not going out shooting a commercial for a brand new car. You're doing some fun video stuff with family or with friends or something cool that you see out and about, and I find that's always really good. I also find it's a good practice at the end of the day to reset your ISO to 100. In the early days I used to forget all the time, and I'd go through a whole shoot and I'd get home, I'd be like, why is everything so noisy and bizarre and not clear and sharp? And the reason is I didn't have my ISO reset. I also find sometimes you're outside and it's really glary or it's really difficult to see the screen, and so I usually often will change the screen to here to suit. You can only change it in this orientation. You can't kind of pull it out to the side, but I'll shoot like this, so I can look down, I can hunch over and make sure that's dark so I can see what's happening with the screen, as opposed to going, it's a bit hard to see because there's no top dial, and also because you might choose to stabilize the camera like this. Another way of stabilizing is to look into the camera. I prefer that over everything, to be blatantly honest, and you can change what your monitor sees and does through here and through here, depending on what data you'd like to see in the EVF frame. It also shows you obviously all the settings and all the information that's on the back screen in the EVF if you so choose. And sometimes you can be holding the camera like this and it goes black. You know, why is it going black? The reason it's going black is this little sensor thinks your eye is looking through here when it's not, something else is, and so you just need to recalibrate with this side button and move the monitor options through, and so it prioritizes just the back screen monitor. This little button down here, see this little button? You can press that, it gives you automatic options around what frames per second you'll shoot, and other options like that. And getting back to that earlier function button, this function button I use to change whether my focusing point is stabilized or continuous or manual. So that's one, and I operate that with the back dial, I think. And then if I press the button and I operate with the front dial, it goes through the focus modes. And so sometimes I want matrix metering, where it just shoots the thing that's the main subject, and other times I want spot or I want eye identification or so forth. So I use those two buttons like this, and this button obviously ejects your lens, and you hold your camera down and just protect the sensor there. Otherwise it's just a disaster. I have spoken about a bazillion miles an hour today. I'm sorry. You can play it back in half speed, or you can go back and watch it. These videos are always a bit of a reference point that hopefully you'll go back and go, oh, I need a bit more on that, or what about this, or how does that work, and just need a bit of a refresher on that. There's some links in the description below to all the things I've talked about, and I hope this has been helpful. My heart is for you to enjoy photography. I just want you to love it if it's your thing. And there's so much beauty to be captured in our world, and every photo is a unique, perfect opportunity to capture that moment, whatever it is, that will never be repeated. And so if I can help with that, that's why I'm here and why I love doing this. If you want to say thanks in any way, you can do that through different options down below. You can get me a coffee, you can do a super thanks, you can join the channel, you can do whatever you like. Just give me a high five, or yeah, just say good day, whatever you like. Glad to help. Hope this has been helpful. Any questions, comments below, and I'll see ya in the next video. Bye. And I always forget to say like and subscribe, but I figure if you like this, you'll like it without being told, and if you want to see more of it, you'll subscribe without me telling you. You work it out. See ya.